tend to calm down to a degree during the day and are now getting a little bit more worked up. They'll be getting hungry now. It's time to go out and feed shortly, but these guys may have their agenda filled with some slightly different plans, and that is fighting over this prime piece of territory. And what is going to happen next? Oof. Just from that one little attack there, I noticed that one's mouth seemed a lot more bloodied than it was this morning. So obviously the few fights they have had this afternoon have been quite intense. And those little cuts in their mouths will be starting to get sore and bigger, and that will also increase the intensity of the fighting we do witness. So we have got some great possible action lined up here. I mean, it could be that one does manage to get one really in a tight spot, and they can cause a lot of damage to one another when they do get to this stage of a fight, but only time will tell. From watching this morning, folks, we can tell that there is a way of distinguishing between the two. The one has a notch on its right ear, and that is the one on the, I can't tell at this stage, but we will keep you updated. The one does have a very distinctive notch in its right ear, which helps to establish who's who, so keep an eye out for that. And also bear in mind that they do have little breaks, just as boxers would do between rounds. They kind of have little breaks where they regain their breath and their energy levels and then come charging in again. So go ahead. Such an awesome vocalization, that. And we didn't hear many vocalizations this morning, which is also interesting. It is increasing. It appears not only their fighting is getting more intense, but also their vocalization, and I'm sure their dominance displays will start beginning to increase as the evening progresses. But that's when the damage can start getting really big, because they can move a lot faster outside of the water, and they can therefore create more damage and cause more damage to one another when they are out the water. So I think out the water and with their heads above the water is the majority of the fighting. When we don't see them doing anything now, they're not continuing to fight underwater. If they were, we'd be seeing a lot of movements of water, but they simply, I think, letting their hearts rest a little bit, regaining their breath before clashing again when they are underwater like this. So that's that, and I hope that answers your question, Madeline, but it is a good one, and it would be interesting to see them fighting underwater. It certainly would. But sadly, we've got no access to prove that. But like I say, from the fact that we don't see any turbulence or movements in the water, we can assume that they don't. And as easy as that. Great shots. That was awesome. And we did watch, not necessarily this heron, but a similar heron this morning, also a grey heron, hunting on the opposite bank just away from us there. It was hunting small little other fish or tadpoles, we're not sure for which one, but maybe it's back for a little bit of an evening hunt, and wouldn't that be nice to switch between the heron hunting and the hippo fighting? This looks like a leopard-faced vulture. It's a huge vulture, and it's going to be very difficult for them to film because it's directly behind the vehicle now and actually out of sight. So it was a very large vulture, and there was chat about vultures earlier this afternoon and which types we get here. And this is actually one that I forgot about because I haven't seen one for a while. Yeah. And I haven't seen one since we've been here. They're not very common. And one of these just flew past in the distance, the white-headed vulture. The leopard-faced are the biggest, and then cape and whiteback are very similar sizes, with the hooded being the smallest. So these are the 5 species of vulture that we get here in the Kruger. Come on, hippos. Sadly, folks, just to keep you in the loop of Karula's movements, she was heading north towards us, and now she's changed her direction and started heading east, which doesn't bring us to towards us. But that could all change, but I just thought I would keep you in the loop as to the likelihood of seeing her. But there's a chance, and that's great. There are other game viewers with her now and keeping an eye on her, and if she does cross over onto our property, we'll be informed, and then we can race across there. But until then, we will just wait for these hippos who have been fighting, I promise you. As we arrived, they were clashing teeth for a little bit, and this morning for 3 hours we spent with them. But again, it must be made clear that this fighting hasn't got to a stage where it's the be-all and end-all for either one of these hippos. They are still kind of building up to that stage, I guess. And for me, it's difficult to tell exactly. Events like this happen rarely and will always be different between different animals and different individual events. So difficult to say exactly how a hippo fight will turn out, because it's exactly the same as saying how will a fight between 2 humans turn out. There's a long list of possibilities in which a fight could finish. Okay. You see all those catfish feeding there, Vian? There, to the left of the hippo. Go to the left and zoom in. A bit more left. Somewhere in around there, zoom in, yeah. Yeah, you're on one there. Are you zoomed in fully? Yep. It's very difficult to see at the moment, but they are Oh, there's lots of them now. Look at all of them. Look at all of those catfish, folks. Crazy. There are so many of them putting their mouths up there. The water's literally bubbling. For him to zoom in as much as he can, you can't get a perspective of how many of them are doing this. But they literally all simultaneously have started this kind of breathing, it appears, on the surface, and it is something we have seen before. And we do know that they can breathe in oxygen like that and process it, unlike most other fish. They can survive on land for hours being out of the water, these catfish. And just interesting to see this behavior, that they have all started simultaneously raising their little mouths up to the surface. It's not something they do often. These will be big fish, probably 2-3 feet at least in length, these catfish. Some of them up to 4 or 5 feet, I'm sure, in this dam. I'm very surprised at how long it's been since the hippo's last interaction, because when we were here this morning, it was fairly constant to a degree, the backwards and forwards, and then actual clashes would happen probably every 10 minutes or so, every 10-15 minutes. But now it appears that all is peaceful at Gowrie Dam. What would be interesting, or what is an interesting thought, is that if we didn't have this webcam here informing us that these hippos were fighting this morning, you could drive past here, spend 5 minutes here, think everything's completely normal and carry on, and not know that these hippos were having a dispute or are having a dispute. So again, important just to emphasize how important it is for us to take our time and really try and understand animals and give sightings time to unfold rather than rushing from A to B. A few people have been asking whether these catfish could be eating the dung of the hippos. Yes, they could. They do scavenge whatever they can, these catfish. They've got a wide diet, but they are mainly carnivorous catfish. That's not to say they won't feed on. Let's get this guinea fowl quickly. They're doing a nice show for us here. Yeah, we've got a little helmeted guinea fowl parade. They were really running and jumping and getting a bit worked up, which they may continue to do as they feed along the fringe of the water. But yes, the catfish could be feeding on any excrement from the hippo or anything that they kick up as they move, the hippos. But at the moment, I don't think they are feeding. They are actually obtaining oxygen at the moment, filling up their systems with oxygen. And that's understandable. I'm not sure how much oxygen is generated in this waterhole. It's very muddy, no plants really in it. Okay, Liam, I've got your next job cut out for you. I don't know if it's going to do it again, but you see that woodlands kingfisher sitting on the left-hand side of that overhanging tree there? Oh! Okay, well, that was the one that just flew off. It had flown down into the water to get wet to have a bath, and I was hoping it was going to do it again and see if you could capture it flying into the water. There is another one that is perched in there, though, that may do the same thing. But it's a gamble. So, and I can't actually see it, which is going to make it very difficult for you. It's hard to tell. Like I say, we so seldom get to see this kind of interaction. But if I was to put money on something happening, it would certainly increase if there was a female here, or if we did bring a female in. I think it would certainly increase the intensity of these males. So yes, I think the answer is yes to that question, Bob. That they